don't remember last time I was at theaters.
And we're live.
Live, huh?
Gentlemen, how we doing? Happy Thanksgiving.
It's not Thanksgiving yet.
The energy deflation. I swear to God, man. Dylan over here blows his nose like a schoolgirl.
It's called common decency.
You remind me of those. This was absolutely a trope of every kid that went to.
Schoolgirls? They blow their nose?
No, of when people go went to public high school or public school at any point. You go over, and there was like a meta around blowing your nose. You had to go over there, and you had to not blow your nose. You had to just like pet it.
Pet it.
Nobody would make noise. Everybody's over there like trying to be quiet and stuff like that. And I'll never forget when I learned this lesson. I was in 2nd grade. I went over and I blew my nose, and I just blew my nose like a regular good old American. And I made my teacher gag. I made her gag because
God,
I was kind of sick.
gross.
I was kind of sick, and I kept blowing my nose, and I was, probably two Kleenexes deep with it.
Yeah.
And she was gagging. I was in 2nd grade, and I was like, oh. And then I started paying attention to it. And kids do not blow their nose at all. They like,
That's why you see a bunch of kids running around just snot all over their face.
it's
when they're
gross.
sick.
Well, even adults, like, because it's like this weird, thing that you don't do in public. Oh, you
impolite.
got, I get it, like, you don't do it at dinner, but
I will
when you
blow
go to
my
blow your nose, go blow your nose.
I'll be at work and I'll blow my nose, definitely in front of people. My only thought and concern is like, I don't want them to freak out thinking they're going to catch whatever I have.
Yeah,
But I'm not like over here thinking like it's not like you're like, farting in front of the.
I'll
I feel
usually
like that's
go
different.
somewhere like that's not directly in front of somebody and blow my nose. Because I don't know. I just feel like if you're talking to me and I'm just like, yeah.
100%, you would dismiss yourself,
Put it
right?
in front of them.
But when you're in a classroom and you go off, it's always on like the wall, right?
Yeah.
And you go over there.
The
and
shame.
You could be in the middle of a lesson. You would hear these people like, "Oh, it's cute. I'm okay. And you didn't fucking blow anything. You're more worried about your reputation than your nose. Blow the damn nose. And I learned that lesson in 2nd grade, and it stunted.
Your growth.
It stunted me emotionally. Okay.
If I'd have just blown my nose,
If I would just,
I'd be a different man.
Mrs. Akers, she got grossed out by me. She
Made her
actually
throw up.
called me out. 2nd grade.
I don't mind when people blow their nose. I don't mind when people like. I really don't mind that. I just don't like if I see like snot or spit. Both of
It's
those
gross.
things gross me out. I can't handle it. I can't like I especially can't see spit.
Especially
Shit's
that
gross.
like what about when the dudes do the dip, with like
Oh,
the
dude.
tobacco and they
In the
carry
water
that
bottle?
around, and they have the audacity to have like the clear water bottles, and you're like, you
And just
disgusting.
soaking. It's like it's a biology
just like, yeah.
experiment. Like,
And I don't even listen to what you have to say at that point because I'm just like looking at it. I'm
wrong
like
with
looking at it and getting more appalled. I'm like, I'm
honestly,
gross
though,
for
chewing
you.
is like the grossest of all tobacco stuff. Like the fact that you just like slobber on it for a little bit and then you spit it out.
Yeah,
It's like
dude.
it's so gross. It's just like it's not classy like a cigar.
No,
It's
no,
not-
and then like when you do swallow it, like the act is called gutting.
yeah, like
I'm gonna gut this.
I'm gonna gut it.
Like what? Like it's like a macho man mentality.
What do you
That's
guys
it
think of
is.
the Zins?
I think it's ridiculous.
They're
I
like
think
the
chewing
little baggies.
tobacco's like it's highly addictive, and I hear
Yeah.
it's one of the hardest things to kick. And
I mean, let's just be clear now. Like tobacco in general, we're advising just don't do it if you haven't.
yeah.
Like, don't feel peer pressured to.
But like I think with the chewing tobaccos though, I guess it goes into your bloodstream or whatever.
Yep.
And bypasses like when you inhale things like that, I think it goes. I don't know if it goes straight to your blood. I think there's something that breaks it down. But when you chew, tobacco goes right in your
more
bloodstream. Way more addictive. And I know a lot of people who started with like the vape pens and stuff like that have translated to Zins. I think my brother does. I'm not kidding. 3 packs of Zins a day, or something like that. He's paying like $20 a day in
a lot of money.
Zins. And you know,
3
they're
packs?
yeah, and they're mints. You know, they're like mint or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess it's not as gross, but you're still chewing a lot of tobacco.
Well, especially if he does 3 packs. I tried one. Just my friend Malachi had one, and I tried it. I didn't get it. I was like, it was mint, and then my mouth like it got tingly, and I was like, okay.
I do think there's a biological component to those types of things, though, too, where some people are more prone to getting hooked than others on a lot of things. I would be afraid, me personally, to like do a lot of that stuff because I feel like I have kind of an addictive personality. I can easily get hooked on things.
100%. That is my motto too. That's why I don't even touch anything like that. I just have this fear of liking it, and once you know what something's like, you want to kind of go. You
See?
get drawn towards it.
Now I feel like I have an
get
addictive
nervous.
personality, but like the one example I use to think that and I mean it's the reason I haven't ever started smoking. I don't smoke anything like that. Is like, when I smoke hookah, that has nicotine in it. I feel the high, but I'm not like, oh, I can't wait to go back there and get that high again. No, I'm like, all right,
Well, what's the addictive? It's got to be the nicotine, right?
isn't it? Yeah, it's the nicotine high.
Well, do you? Yeah, I don't know because cigarettes. I think they get you. Cigarettes, but give you a buzz. From what I hear, I've never smoked a cigarette, but from what I understand, it's like it gives you a buzz, like a almost like an adrenaline rush, from how it's been explained to me. And I feel like that's different from because I've tried
Yeah.
hookah before once.
And it's like, if it's the
And it
same
was just
nicotine
like,
rush,
eh.
I don't get it. But I guess
Yeah.
if it is different, we wouldn't know.
I wonder how much of the lightheadedness is the fact that you're not breathing in as much oxygen. You're like, wow, I really feel a head rush. It's like, yeah, you are depriving your brain of oxygen. That's what the head rush feels like. I don't know,
Just
though.
Put a bag over our head.
Yeah. Would you ever do meth?
No.
Is that where
I
you
think
draw
I
the
can
line?
handle it once.
I remember. Do you guys remember the efforts that they did to get kids to not ever do meth? Like just
Dare?
once. No, that whole like crystal meth documentary that they.
This is your
Did-
brain.
Did you guys have the guy come in?
Oh yeah, middle school.
This is your brain on
Yep,
meth.
that was when it was. They were like,
Cigarettes
just
are
once.
often considered more addictive than hookah because a typical cigarette delivers a more concentrated dose of nicotine in a shorter time frame, while hookah delivers it in a much more drawn out, spread out.
Huh.
Like
So it's
There's-
more intense.
it's more intense in a short period versus hookah is the same amount spread out over longer
Which makes
more
sense why
controlled.
people smoke so many cigarettes because it doesn't they need it again right away.
it says here a single hookah session, let's see. In the amount of nicotine you can get from like an hour or so of hookah is the equivalent to one cigarette. So a cigarette's just much more concentrated.
Wow.
An hour of smoking hookah is one cigarette.
According to the AI overview from Google.
In terms of like just nicotine intake or
on nicotine intake on why it's
wow.
so
That's
it's
a
just
long
like
session
slowed down.
versus look up a cigar. I bet you that's like 300 cigarettes in one setting. It's like just
But then,
slams you.
like cigars, you're not supposed to inhale, right?
Well, that's why
See,
you.
that's
That's
true.
why you don't get as addicted to cigars
true.
because you're not inhaling the smoke.
I didn't think about that perspective. Yeah,
It's you're mouthing it. What's it called?
I
Cheeking
call
it?
it mouthing it. Yeah, cheeked up.
I'm all cheeked up right now, boys.
Yeah, I mean, so the nicotine absorption is much slower due to not inhaling the smoke in a cigar.
Yeah.
So it looks like based on just a small amount of research that primarily it's just the sheer volume that you get in a much shorter time frame on cigarettes.
Wow, that almost seems weird because with hookah, there's way more smoke, right?
Yeah.
So you would
But
almost think that you're
nicotine isn't
taking,
what creates the
right.
smoke. you
but
know.
it's counterintuitive. Like if you were to tell me what an hour smoking hookah, or one cigarette, I would 99 out of 100
Well, in
times say the
hookah,
opposite.
you're passing it like through the water.
So that's what dilutes it too, probably.
I don't believe any of that bullshit.
What?
Like I still think it's chemical shit that's going on. Like,
Oh,
it's
I'm
just
sure.
water vapor, bro. I don't know.
No, I think the water the only thing that serves to do is cool it down.
Oh, see, so that I remember you telling me that. Now you're right. I guess I'm comparing it to the vape pen, like a vape, which
Yeah.
is vape even remotely similar to a hookah. Like in the sense of the way it doesn't work even remotely the same.
You can, well, it depends, because you can have those vapes that are just flavor, or you can have the ones with nicotine. And then those have different settings, so you can have like more nicotine or like. So I'm sure there's a point where the vapes surpass the hookahs, and maybe there's one that's similar.
Well, it says vaping depending on like the settings of the vape itself and which one can be more addictive than a cigarette. Vaping is so far out of everything I've researched, is the only thing that is capable of delivering a more concentrated dose of nicotine than a cigarette is. So vaping is actually worse, can be worse than all of
I
that.
believe that. Let me hit you with a story about a vape pen. I was in Puerto Rico, doing a walking tour of the city.
Wow, this is just, I mean, wow, what a beginning.
I know. Well, it's the meaning of life.
You ready?
Nicotine.
Nicotine.
All right.
Walking tour in Puerto Rico. All right.
Walking tour
Yes.
It's a long walk around
Puerto
the whole
Rico.
island, or
on the port of
Mhm.
Rico.
And this guy in front of me. I don't think he took a normal breath. I've never seen anyone hit a vape as hard as this guy. I don't know how many charges you have or how many pulls you have with those things. I'm not kidding you. And he was right in front of me, so I was just getting nailed with this, you know. People around me were like, this is impressive. Because those streets are pretty elevated and stuff like that, and he was kind of a bigger guy. You would have thought he was out of breath. This guy was hit. You would have thought it was like a performance-enhancing drug. It was like an inhaler or something. It was mind-blowing how much smoke was coming out through this guy's lungs. And I'm like, this cannot be good at all. Even if it was just water vapor. I wouldn't want that much water vapor in my
You
lungs.
get pneumonia.
Yeah, dude. It was. I mean, people were. Everyone behind this guy were kind of just like making eye contact, like, "What the fuck is going on, dude?"
It's like
this
a
is
choo-choo
so
train.
impressive.
what a machine.
Yeah, I mean, I was judging him, but I wasn't thinking it was.
Everyone else was
impressive.
impressive, and you were all pissed off looking
This
at
guy. Well, he also was just making no effort to get it out of the way. It was like, blah, and we're all walking, so it's just like bam,
It
bam,
is-
bam. But it was like every 3 steps.
Did it
and
smell
that's not an
good?
exaggeration. Not really. It smelled like it wasn't bad, but it just it had a scent, and it wasn't appalling. Let's put it that way. Anyway. Yeah. So Gladiator 2.
Yeah,
I checked it out. I
Thanks
was
for
supposed to
taking
go
me
with
on
some
that
friends.
journey before you.
You're welcome.
that was awesome.
You're welcome.
You're a good storyteller. I could picture it exactly.
I pictured it was like these cobblestone roads
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
with
Like old forts
yeah.
Yep.
in the background. Yeah.
It's exactly what it is.
It was probably hot. You were sweating.
It was
Humid?
extremely hot.
Looking a bit like Guarma.
I
in
think-
Red Dead.
Imagine you in like a
Bald
Hawaiian
worm.
button-up polo, like Hawaiian like button-up shirt with shorts.
You were probably in a checkered shirt, buttoned up.
I might have been in this shirt. I don't even know.
Did you have a brim hat on?
I had a bucket hat on.
Bucket hat.
They
Yeah.
call me Bucket Hat Bill.
Bucket hat, Bill. I heard that before. I always wondered what the origin was. Now I know.
I can tell you the order. No, I'm just kidding. Gladiator 2. All right. I was supposed to go with some friends. Friends stitched me, so I went by myself.
got sick.
Yeah, my friend.
Sick
No
AF.
excuses. Wish you were there. all movie, just coughing. Saw it in IMAX, so I think IMAX can easily taint an experience for the good because it's just such an immersive experience.
Taint's probably not the right word then, because I immediately went negative.
Can
Taint
can
an experience
enhance.
for the good.
Taintly. What do you think?
enhance,
No, I don't even want to say enhance because it can.
alter?
Warp your perception.
Yes, distort
reality of what actually happened
for the good.
for the good. Or bad.
Because nothing is different about the movie. It's just louder.
Be an acid
it's
trip.
just louder.
It's bigger.
So keep that with a grain of salt. I enjoyed it. Narratively, is it going to blow your balls off? Absolutely not. It's not even.
Did you watch the first one?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. The first one's one of my favorite movies. I don't know if it's top 10 or anything like that, but it's such a good movie. Narratively, it didn't blow me away. They drew some parallels between the first, and some of it seemed like a stretch. I also didn't really like Denzel Washington's performance of his character. It's kind of weird.
I've been seeing memes that everybody else is like acting like, like Roman, and he's just Denzel.
That's an you know what's funny? I haven't done any after movie research,
No?
so this is completely like untainted by the internet. But I could absolutely see that take. It almost it did feel disjointed from everything else. It was kind of like, well, that's weird, and also his motivations and stuff are just kind of interesting. But the guy that plays the gladiator or whatever, absolutely looks like a Greek god. Not from how jacked or anything he is, but his facial structure is like literally looks like a stone carving. It's very interesting. Like
Paul Mescal.
I don't know if you.
Paul Mescal.
I don't know if I've.
He
seen
hasn't
anything.
acted in anything. He was in like a romance movie.
Isn't Pedro Pascal in this?
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's not the gladiator.
Okay, I thought you were just butchering Pedro Pascal's name. I was like, what?
Paul.
You're like, wait, what?
I've never heard of Paul Mescal.
How was Pedro? Who was he?
The same as he is in
Pedro
every-
basically is Maximus Decimus Aurelius, like same position in this 15 years later. He's the general of the armies. Yeah, and then like they fall, like I don't want to spoil anything, but like they pretty much fall for the same fucking thing that happened in the first movie, and you're like, duh, like you didn't see that coming, like what the fuck? There's twin emperors, so like they jointly store power and stuff like that, and there's pretty cool twists with that. And
Is this based in any kind of reality, or is it all fiction?
I don't think there's any validity to this storyline in terms of like
Like, where are
Roman
we on
history.
Historical characters.
like? Is this like 300 based in real life? Or
The
is this
origin story of the two twin emperors was that they were raised by a wolf and suckled her breast, and
So this is the beginning of Rome.
so
yeah.
well no, so this is
No,
this
mythology.
Is the fall of Rome.
That's the actual myth, though.
Well, Julius. Well, what do you mean? Well, so they might have drawn. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with
Well-
where the origins, but this is way after. So this is after
This
the
is
Roman
after?
Republic. Well, that's what the gladiator is all about. It's like the fall of Rome. The Roman Republic. Julius Caesar had already seized powers and had made it the Roman Empire with dictatorship. And this is the line of dictators. Marcus Aurelius from the first movie. This is after the first movie. Marcus Aurelius is one of the last emperors of Rome. And this is years after they seized
I mean,
power
Marcus
from-
Aurelius was a real dude. I wonder if any of the characters were real.
Yeah, pretty much after him, there's like, it gets really sloppy in terms of who takes leadership of Rome. And so, but anyway, yeah, like these two twin emperors were raised by a wolf, and they suckled at her milk, and they make a point of talking about that. And yeah, it was interesting enough narratively to make me go, ew, this is terrible. Phenomenal sound design. It's phenomenal sound design. So good. But again, I saw it in IMAX, so it's just everything's loud as hell. But it was really, really cool, some of the fight scenes and stuff like that. They transformed the Colosseum into some crazy shit that's so unrealistic, but really cool. They flood it, and they're like on a fucking pirate ship in the Colosseum, and there's what? And there's great white sharks floating around. So again, narratively, you're not gonna get your mind blown, but take it for what it's worth. They flood the Colosseum, and they're literally sailing pirate ships. Pretty fucking crazy.
So in the Colosseum, so it's full of holes. How did they flood it with?
Kyle, don't ask
Well,
any
they-
questions.
They
okay?
flood the bottom part, right?
Yeah, just the battleground.
Yeah.
But then like
Pretty wild.
dude, it's silly.
Yeah,
It's
remember when they
very
did
silly.
that
Yeah.
in 470 AD?
Yeah. You know, because you could just flood. You could pump in somehow millions of gallons of water.
Don't doubt Roman engineering. All right?
Yeah,
Apparently.
they had aqueducts.
And just float a fucking boat. You know, not only like where did the boat come from? I don't know. You know, just fucking the boats, 2 boats floating. Also, there's this really weird scene. I'll explain this because it's just kind of goofy to me. There's this really weird scene where they usher out this like great champion of Rome. Like everyone loves them. Like he's this almost like from the first movie, there was like the one that like was undefeated warrior, stuff like that. They like usher him out, right? And he's like this great champion. And you think like you would want to protect your champion, right?
Yeah.
They give him a rhino, just a rhino,
To ride?
to ride, and put him up against like 20 dudes. And of course he loses. I'm like, wait a minute. This guy's like the great champion. They like walk him out. And he kills everyone, of course, except for, you know, the main guy, you know. And it was just like, wait a minute. This is like the great champ. Why'd you put him 1v20? Like, what do you like? And basically it's just him riding the rhino, running people over. And you're like, okay, that's fine. But like he finally gets knocked off by the one main guy, you know, and then they have like a 1v1 and dies. And it's just like 1v20 seems like an interesting choice for me for this great champion that you hype up. It was just like
As
it
a
was so
citizen.
stupid. And then you put him against like fully armored, weaponed fighters from like because they lost. It was the idea was like they were all from this village. All these fighters, like 20 fully armed, in gear warriors, people who were like fighters. And it was like, I feel like they could have done a better job protecting this guy. Like one Aaron spear throw, and this guy's fucking dead.
Done.
You know, so
Maybe they don't care. They just want to see a good show.
They just want blood.
That's the taxpayer money at work right there. The Roman citizens.
I don't. Why would you take that fight as the fucking champion? Like
They didn't have a
1v20? Absolutely.
I don't think he had a choice.
No,
like
he was
Kyle
a
said.
gladiator. So he was a gladiator, so he's a free man.
But he wanted to. Maybe it was honorable to die in the arena.
Oh, I'm sure it was, but like I feel like you don't take the fight where you're 1v20.
Unless
you maybe
you're
pass on that
assured a wonderful life with the gods afterwards.
one. It just was sad. It was just like I was like, okay, like you really didn't have a chance, but like, and also the rhino was not that impressive. It just like bullied people over. Really great CGI, but it was just like it's a fucking rhino. It's not like he's got great turning radius. Like it's a straight line.
It's no
effectiveness.
war elephant. Hannibal Barca
Yeah, from
going over the mountains. Yeah, the Oliphants, Lord of the Rings.
Yep, they flood the Colosseum and have a full-on pirate ship battle.
Interesting.
It was very interesting, and then nobody foresaw that one of the boats would crash, and because you've, raised, you're on a boat in the floated Colosseum. That you're really close to the emperors. What happens? Oh, it's a little dangerous. And then the Hound from Game of Thrones was like the general.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he had like the most simple part. He's basically there for just facial reactions. Like,
It's him.
Oh, who is Denzel?
a master manipulator.
Master manipulator.
I don't know how to describe him. He was into putting up. That's the thing too. He comes in and he's kind of like known as this guy that likes to gamble and stuff like that. And then over the course of the movie, like wins every single bet that he makes and becomes so ridiculously wealthy that like he buys out one of the senators' homes and kicks him out onto the street. Like the whole thing is like it just was so random. He's like, "This is my house now. You owe me 10,000 or whatever." He just like moves in, and all of a sudden he's like the emperor's right hand man. You're like, wait, what? What just happened? Like
Joseph Quinn is in it.
just kind of comes in as a rich guy who likes to bet and
One of the emperors. I
fucking
think.
walks away. Yep.
Yeah. That's how. God. That's how you know you're getting old when like we're older than like the main characters
Oh God, we
in
are.
Gladiator. Yeah,
How
Yeah,
old's
when
Paul
you-
Mescal?
1996 is when he was
Oh
born.
no.
Well, that's what happens when you watch like the NFL too.
I know.
When 1 year
Oh.
you're 1 year like you're older, and then 3 years later, or 1 year you're younger, then 3 years later you're older than like every
entire
team. And you're
league, and you're like,
oh.
you're like this guy's really getting up there, and he's still hanging on. He's 31, and they're like, it's a miracle he can still play the way he does.
And it's like, what?
He's defied father time, and you're like,
Like, God,
fuck, damn man. Well, like the average age of most NFL teams is like 25 years old. It's like, oh shit! Like these guys are born in 2000.
yeah, honestly. And they
That's
like,
the average.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's way younger than that, and guys older than that, and like you usually have that one old ass quarterback that throws the whole thing off anyway. And you're like, oh shit.
Now he's our age.
No, yeah,
people
Yeah.
that were born in 2006
are driving.
are starting their freshman year of college. They've graduated high school. Yeah.
Whoa.
Think about that.
That means like kids born in 2009 coming up are driving.
Yeah.
Imagine once it
They were
hits the
2 when
2010s.
Skyrim
Some
came out.
millennial ghosts. We're talking about driving.
It's real.
We're sad because
Meaning
we're
of
old.
life.
Tell me I'm not old, millennial.
You're old.
Am I a ghost, millennial?
He's like, I shouldn't have joined.
Am I? Am
I'm
I
getting
here?
called out on a
am I
level
here
I'm not
for
ready
my-
for.
Am I here to be memories of my children? For my children. What is the line?
No,
We're,
it's
your mom. Like what
Your
a
mama?
fucking no.
What?
Because I'm talking about
Interstellar.
Interstellar.
Yeah.
What a batshit line to tell your kids. Like, I'm here to be the ghost to your memories. That's my only purpose. Like, what the fuck? That's so morbid.
Why I can't place this?
He's in her
Right
room
before he
before he
leaves Murph.
leaves. And he's like, he tells her, like, your mom used to always say that we're only here to be the ghosts of our children's memories. Something like that, right? Something like
yeah.
that.
We're gonna.
You know where he also, I feel like, fucks up? When he's like trying to comfort her as he's about to leave on this mission, he's like, when I come back, we might be the same age. What? And I'm like, that is not helping.
That's a horrible thing
That's a
to
horrible
say.
thing to say to your child.
I might be gone for 30 years.
Ends up being way older too. Like,
She was like 109 or
yeah,
something when he
something
finally came back.
crazy.
And it was almost perfect that their meeting was as simple and basic as it was.
It
'Cause,
couldn't have
like,
been any
you
more than
don't know each other.
Yeah.
And how? What are you
She
supposed
wants
to
to be
do?
with her
Like,
family. Like, she wants to see her kids.
She's got a whole
Like,
other
yeah.
family. She married Topher Grace.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I love that movie. Don't get me wrong, but I do feel like that was his relationship with his daughter was kind of odd at times. I feel that way more now after becoming a father, but I would not have handled that in that way at all.
How would you have handled it, Kyle?
I wouldn't have done it.
Ah.
I really wouldn't have. I wouldn't have gone on that crazy adventure and risked the not being able to see my kids ever again. I know it's for humanity, but I would be selfish in that moment.
Why couldn't she go
And
with
that-
him?
she was a child.
It ain't no place for a kid.
Yeah, she was a child. It's not like you just like, we got extra room in the life
They're
support
probably-
systems.
They were probably very limited.
Dude, they had
on-
no
resources.
resources. That was like the whole plot. It's like this was the last effort of humanity.
Yeah, but they sleep for most of the time. You know?
Yeah, but then now they have to have more space to have that sleeping rest and the resources to build that. And how's that? Like,
Could have made
We're
it work.
talking.
dude, there's
It's
no
not
chance.
realistic, and you
He's
know
gonna
it.
take his daughter
you're just
and not
trying.
his son. He's gonna take his daughter and not
His
his
son
son.
was old enough.
Dude, now you're just making shit up.
His son was
There's
the
no
one that
way.
was like really hanging on to it. He was the one sending all the video messages and stuff.
So let me ask
Hey,
you this then,
Dad,
Kyle. Based on your
hey,
logic, would
Dad.
you do a high risk job? Like if would you do a job that had a 10% chance of death in any given year?
But the pay was amazing.
But the honor of the role, like military. I don't know.
Military.
Being in the military at wartime, like would you? And your risk of death was 10%. Let's just say. Would you do that with having kids or no?
It's hard to say. First off, I'm like too old now for a lot. I can't just think about joining the military.
Remember, we're not old enough to not be drafted though.
In the Air Force.
In the Air Force.
That's the only one that'll still take us.
Which the Air Force includes the Space Force.
Yes, we're qualified.
We're
do it.
there.
We're there.
And by his logic, just bring your kid.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah. Yeah. It's a risky mission where you're probably going to die. Come along, son. Come along, daughter.
Why not?
I don't remember what your names are. Son, daughter, come here.
I'm being intentionally vague.
I'm just.
Being dense.
I know you are. It's a joke. 10%'s a little high for me.
It is.
I don't think I would. I would do that.
That would mean 1 out of 10 times.
No. Now,
That-
if I had to be, it's so like if I had to do something in order to protect my family, that's different.
100%.
But I wouldn't go out of my way like needlessly. But if like I didn't do this and
If you were told the
that
story.
puts my family at risk by me not doing it, that's a different thing.
Okay. So
But I wouldn't just take on like I'm not going to go work on an oil rig.
Yeah.
Just that's the only thing.
Well,
I can think
let's
of.
put it in the context of what he was saying. Like, humanity is going to die, and this is the last ditch effort. Like, blight is corrupting all the crops. Like, humanity's not going to exist in a couple generations. Like, that's going to happen, and this is sort of the last ditch effort. So, in effect, you are saving your family.
And you're the
is
only
that
pilot,
enough,
Cooper.
or yeah, is
Well,
that enough, or you want to live your life with your kids?
The problem with his situation is he wasn't presented with enough of a certainty when he left. It was a very like last ditch effort. We don't know if this is even going to work. And it wasn't, if we don't go, we're going to lose.
Well,
It was also like they had a plan B of what they were trying to do. Like that wasn't the only plan. So like it didn't feel like if I was in that position, I don't think that I would go because I would need much more of an assurance that what I was doing was actually going to affect
But
the cause.
Wasn't both plans to
They-
get off planet?
Yeah, but
plan
there
A
was
was
one
to
on
find a
Earth.
hospital family. No, plan B was to get there and colonize it with the frozen eggs. Plan A was to find a planet suitable and then get everyone there.
But they ended up not even doing that.
well, he
Right.
didn't know that
So-
though. He only knew of Plan A. They didn't tell him because remember he gets all upset.
Yeah.
No, he
Because-
knew Plan B.
No,
He knew.
no, he didn't know that Plan A
he didn't know
exist.
that Plan A. No, he knew Plan. He didn't know Plan A was mathematically infeasible.
Yeah,
Based on
yeah,
whatever
that's
doctor.
because
yeah.
she comes clean to him, and that's when he gets all mad because it's like Cooper. We never thought like
My dad solved his equation a long time ago and couldn't.
yeah.
But
He solved
even
this
she
equation a long
didn't
time
know.
ago by not solving it.
Yeah, right. I am the smartest man, and there is no way to do it.
I think that obviously no one can make this kind of decision unless they're actually in that moment. But I do feel like I wouldn't have left, regardless of.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to also put myself in that position because I'm not the kind of person that they would ever go to save humanity. I don't have the expertise.
You're not a test pilot.
Well, I gave that up.
Okay.
When my daughter was born.
We're not suffering from blight.
Are we? Blob blight?
Yeah, blah blight.
What about
I don't
you
know. I
guys?
feel like my call to action. Again, I'm not a father yet, so I don't know. But I feel like my call to action.
What's your perspective as just
If it was the
where you are now in your life?
I'm going.
No.
Oh yeah, my sense of adventure, like especially to save the human race. Just the idea of having an opportunity to have a chance at that. Absolutely. If I had the skill set, I mean, I'm clearly in phenomenal shape, so I would be obviously top of the list. So, you know, I can handle the 9 Gs. Come on, Tars! I got it.
It's impossible.
No. It's necessary.
It's necessary.
That would have been you.
You know,
Easily.
Matthew McConaughey is voicing the main character in that new sci-fi game. That's
Oh, yeah.
created by the ex BioWare devs.
It's like
I forget
the
what it's
space
called.
one. I don't know.
But he's Matthew McConaughey's voicing the main dude.
All right.
Apparently.
All right. I don't feel like voice actors need to be a personality. Just get a good voice in there. I don't feel like you
What do you
need to
mean by
spend-
personality? Like, do they
Like
need
an
to be a
actor?
Like
celebrity?
they probably are dropping
I
hundreds
kind of
of
agree with
thousands
that.
of
Yeah.
dollars on this
Because
guy.
I'm going to be real with you. Every time a celebrity has voiced a character in a video game, I
Never
feel
believe
like they
it.
don't do as well as just the normal voice actors.
Idris Elba.
I didn't mind Idris Elba as much as you did.
Wait, like you think it sucked?
And no, I don't think it sucked, but he's definitely worse compared to Keanu. Like I know Keanu's an actor, but
Compared to like actual voice actors, though, I feel like celebrities don't really do as well.
Well,
voice
it's a totally different skill set.
yeah,
to be
voice
honest.
actors and performance capture artists are generally more skilled to that, and celebrities generally don't do that good.
Well, Millennial Ghost says Terry Crews is amazing in Crackdown 3. I haven't played Crackdown
Terry Crews
3.
is amazing at everything. I don't know if that's sarcasm or not, but
Well, he also is like another one of those like high energy guys, so I think he could bring it, but I wouldn't say Matthew McConaughey's a high energy. No, I think he's gonna probably kill it. He's a phenomenal actor, and he'll figure out what is bad and what's good.
well, and I think it helps too nowadays. Especially, you can get better performances because of motion capture. So
performance
like the actor,
capture is more
can
commonly
put
what people
matches.
use now. So
yeah, like Kratos,
Yeah.
Christopher Judge, right? He was an actor. I mean, he still is, but
he wasn't like A-list or anything.
Yeah,
but
he was on
See,
Battlestar Galactica or something.
so. Then if motion capture is involved, then you do want an actor.
which is like a good 80% of games now
Yeah.
is motion capture.
so then you need an actor that is a good actor to be able
Well,
to
you look at
match.
like Red Dead. There's not like a single celebrity in that, and they all have like phenomenal performances.
Last of Us, the first one and the second one, first one mainly,
Those
won
are-
all types of awards. They're all just voice actors.
The thing is there's not okay, that's not entirely true, but there's a good amount of people that have become voice actors that started off as actors. Like they were like stage actors, classically trained, whatever, and then they became voice actors. Even the guy that voices Mario, he was like a theater actor, and then he did like some commercials, and then he did an audition for Mario, and then he was the voice of Mario for the like until he retired. Which is like super random because there's like not much that goes into that except being like silly and zany.
It's a me.
You know that I'm sure that everyone knows this by now that is like in that community, but the guy that voices Mario is the same guy that voices Parthenax in Elden Ring in Skyrim. He's like a very deep, like grovelly dragon. You know?
that does the original Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you play?
I don't think
Skyrim?
you've ever played
Yeah.
Skyrim.
Never.
No.
I know that's a huge knock against my gamer card.
I mean, I don't think so, but I'm just curious. As
I
to
don't think so.
No, to me personally,
Oh well, thank you. I appreciate that.
is there a reason
I would
why?
say objection. Yeah. What is that game about? LARPing. No thanks.
There's a story.
That's my point. Bye. Boring. Not interested. The most interesting thing about the game is the opening cutscene. Get out of here.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. I
You're
just
so
shit
wild.
over a fucking like one of the most probably the most successful RPG of all time.
I do think that Skyrim is extremely dated, though. If you go back
Yeah.
and play it now, it's like, wow, these
We just
mechanics
modded
are-
up to modern standards,
Yeah,
right?
and that's part of Bethesda's problem is they haven't updated their formula since like Fallout 3, which came out like 2009.
Well, the fact that like their engine has like basic bugs that get modded day one by the community,
Yep.
and they just expect that they're like, they'll have a fix.
They'll fix our game for us.
Do you
Like
think
Starfield uses the same engine that Skyrim uses.
creation engine?
They've just like it's like a tweaked version of it, but it's the same engine. It's not like a 0.2 or like
Millennial
a 2.0.
Ghost just said that at the same time you guys. Starfield uses the
Yep.
same engine. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you can. I mean, Call of Duty is
It's a
used
bad
the
thing
same,
in this instance.
Well,
yes.
It
And I
feels
think
safe.
if it's-
specifically saying that it's not it's not an updated version. It's not like Creation Engine 2.
It's literally just the same engine.
And they've done updates to it, but
Like Call of Duty's used the same engine for I think like 20 years or something like that. So they're just keep making like little tweaks and iterating and iterating and iterating. So I don't know if it's the end of the world, but
Yeah.
it sounds like in this case, I mean the resources of,
You know what engine
EA
I've
and all
always
that.
loved, but I feel like it's really hard for developers to get it right is Frostbite.
Oh.
I think Frostbite has like so much potential. It always looks so good, but like for some reason, like developers have a hard time with it.
You look at the hair in Veilguard.
Dude, the hair in Dragon Age Veilguard is the best hair I've ever seen in a game.
It's
And
amazing.
that's such a weird thing to like focus on, but like the hair is incredible.
Is it
Veilguard.
open to developers coming in and using the platform?
I don't
do you
know,
have
like
to apply for a license for that, or
I don't know. About
I know
that.
EA really
EA
wanted
owns it,
everybody
though.
to use it. Like they forced BioWare to.
And so all the developers for that was part of it. So all the developers for Mass Effect Andromeda, they had all only ever worked on Unreal, and so when they came in and were all of a sudden forced to work with Frostbite, they kind of really weren't ready for that, and that's why the engine itself, the game still looks very pretty. It's like the animations that are just bad, like. Which they've updated, and it's not terrible anymore, but it still like looks odd. Like it's like very uncanny valley.
You could
And I
tell they
think
were
that's the problem.
unfamiliar with the tools.
Millennial Ghost comments about how dated it is and who's using what. I feel like everybody's using Unreal Engine 5. Unity is definitely the easiest entry level. I actually I was trying to build a game way back when, and
Last week.
Yeah, last week. And
It's coming out.
I used Unity. I actually got a guy to have
Baldur's
some
Gate
real
4.
physics and jump around and stuff like that. And that was pretty cool. And I used Unity for that because we were going to make a mobile game. But ultimately scrapped that project. But I don't give a shit what your engine is. I really is the gameplay interesting. That is all I care
Yeah.
about. So I mean, we could sit here and talk about hair or there's this bug or whatever.
Lumens.
Like, if as long as it works, I think the industry is sort of wising to that with everybody sort of gravitating towards Unreal Engine 5 because I just
Yeah.
think, but then there's weird quirks like. You couldn't build Call of Duty in Unreal Engine 5. Like the combat and the way that things work, like it's just not the same. So you get this homogenization of gameplay styles, I think, with Unity, or not with Unity, I'm sorry, Unreal Engine. And I think that that's a lot of the concern. But who's to say you can't mod the engine itself to make it exactly the way you want, right? You don't have to. That's the thing. Like the quality of bad games are going to be really good because of Unreal Engine 5. But that doesn't mean that your good games that you're investing, dev resources into have to be like that. You can invest the same. The barrier to entry is lower, so you're going to get a lot of good, like not so great bad games.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of a shame that CD Projekt Red is abandoning Red Engine because when that works right, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Even like Witcher 3, which is like 9 years old now, that game still looks like it could have been released this year. It's
also
gorgeous.
just good to have competition too. Like you don't want to only have like the only game in town, right?
Yeah, because that is confirmed, right? CD Projekt
Yeah.
Red said they're moving to Unreal,
Yep.
For the next
Phantom Liberty was the
Cyberpunk.
last
the last Red Engine project.
Red Engine project.
And Cyberpunk, it is like really, really pretty. Like after they had fixed all of the nonsense,
The bugs.
it's a really pretty game, honestly.
Yeah.
And so that's the potential of that engine, but you got one disastrous launch, and it is what it is now.
Well, and it sounds like weren't they struggling because it wasn't really built for like a
Cyberpunk?
FPS, like a shooter. It was built for Witcher, which is like a third-person hack and slash.
I always thought, I mean, I'm used to it now. I can't
Yeah.
think of it any other way, but I always thought that it was weird. Leading up to it, I was constantly wondering why Cyberpunk wasn't a third person game. Like, I felt like it would lend itself to a third person.
Especially with the whole
There's-
clothing
Yeah,
and
there's
stuff.
so much about like customization, and you don't even know what your character looks like unless it's
It's
like.
not even an option.
No, you can't go third person at all. It's a first person only game.
You're third person in a vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Of
But
course.
Like you can drive first person too though
Yeah.
in the vehicle.
but
If you were forced to first person drive, like that would be so annoying.
I would probably hate it.
That
'cause
would
I,
be
I never
so
drive
annoying.
first person.
Do
I
you
like
drive
driving-
in first person?
Sometimes on the motorcycle.
On the
Is this
motorcycle?
while you have
Yeah.
your headset on, but then playing it through your TV? Like,
Yeah.
is that how you get really immersed in
Uh-huh.
it? Oh.
He puts a fan.
But it's like an echo because you're not like, yeah.
I want to feel like I am.
I want to
Cyberpunk.
be V.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah, I get motion sick if I'm playing like a racing game in first person. Like
Really?
Yeah, it throws me off.
I don't know, something about like it's tacky. I usually do better in third person, but I like the immersion feel of the first person. Like I like seeing the inside of the car.
I don't have the patience. Half the time, I just use whatever vehicle I'm getting to get to the fast travel point. Like I only drive somewhere if I've never been there before.
Yeah.
I don't need that. I like immersion, but that's too much for me. Like that's just wasting time.
Yeah, I don't stop at like stoplights and
Drive around in the Badlands, and you're like, wow, this is what it's like out here. Act like you're a nomad.
I totally agree with you, Millennial. Like the thing he says, the thing with Unreal is that the engine handles a lot of the background stuff like physics and lighting and stuff like that. I totally agree, and I think that's why a lot of maybe junior devs that kind of want to get into the space explore that engine, because when you want to design a game, you want to build the game out. You don't want to be fucking around with like how light dispersion happens in a room, right?
It is more
Yeah.
intuitive. And
Yeah, you could just place it. It looks really immersive, and you're like, great. I can focus on delivering a narrative, or I could focus on
Combat.
more level design, or whatever, combat. Yeah, whatever it is. In-house engines take a lot more 100% way more resources. I couldn't even imagine. I'd love to see what the annual budget is for just Unreal Engine 5, like what that costs. And even like CD Projekt Reds, I bet you they dumped 8 figures at least into that engine alone. You know, if it was $100 million it wouldn't surprise me over the course of like a decade. That wouldn't surprise me. Truth be told, just because of how, I mean, you're literally designing like a world, like a simulator. Like that's what you're literally designing from the ground up, and how things interact in that world.
And like you said, when we did the whole episode on lumens, that was the first time I learned that lighting in games
it's not trivial.
I thought it was like the computer knew how to make like light reflect off of stuff automatically. No, you have to go in there and add each surface's reflective, like,
Opacity or whatever.
And you have to do that every single time. And I'm like, oh.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And how that light bounces off. Like, you can't just have like a really shiny object, right? Then that's the whole point of Lumen, is then there's like the secondary effects of that, like radiating.
Yeah,
into
if
the
it's
room
shiny,
and stuff.
it'll reflect off.
Yeah. So, and just basic things too, like overhead, because when you go into, I think this happens a lot more than probably what people think, but the technical limitations of projects, right? You go in, and you're like, oh, I have this vision. And then the developers say like, hey, you need a supercomputer to execute that vision or whatever. And you're like, oh shit, I'm working on base PS4. You know what I mean? You're like, how do I make this work? Good luck.
I went down a rabbit hole just now, but CD Projekt Red spent $430 million making Cyberpunk. And then they also got that class action lawsuit, which cost them $1.3 million to pay that out. And then the game still made almost $1 billion. Like, it didn't even affect that class action lawsuit in the grand scheme of things was so minor, like budget wise.
They're like,
They're like, oh man, we're really sorry. Here you go.
1 million. I thought when you said 1.1, I'm like, billion? And then you're like, million. I'm like, okay. 0.01% of the overall revenue.
That was like just the smallest fraction. Like,
They made $1 billion. It's 0.01.
yeah.
Wait, no. It would be 1%. It would be 0.1%. 0.1%.
they sure
We
showed
really-
them.
We've learned our lesson, guys.
We really did.
We're better for it.
So anyway,
Start the hype train on our next game.
They did. They handled it very well.
Well, and they-
about as well as he could have in that position.
and
When you look at companies like BioWare, who just straight up just abandon their failed projects It's just like it's a miracle that people still get hyped over BioWare shit after everything that they've done.
I
Or
don't
Bethesda.
I don't know if people do. Do you think people were hyped for Dragon Age? Like hype?
Hyped enough that it still became a thing when it wasn't a perfect game when it came out.
I think it was actually pretty calm. I don't see too much.
I think maybe it's just my algorithm only recommends like the angry people to me for some
were
reason.
were people outraged by the game?
I don't know if outrage is right, but like I don't know, like my algorithm has like sensed that like I am
Like drama.
a part of like I like drama, I think. And so like they'll only like they'll like anytime something comes out, they always show me the negative stuff on it. And I'm like, I don't want to just see negative press all the time on everything. But like I also follow a lot of RPG specific channels like on YouTube. And the consensus overall was it was fairly lackluster. But although there is this one guy like that he said that the game is better than people give it credit for, and he thinks that there's just kind of a really big push in this kind of anti-woke mindset, which I think
100%.
can be very toxic. You know, I think that there's a certain amount of healthy in both angles, and I do
100%.
think that some people go overboard with the anti-wokeness.
The
And
moment
it's like,
they get
calm
a
down.
whiff of it, you're
Yeah.
So I was
Sometimes it's justified. Don't get me wrong, but like a lot of times I'm like, you didn't need to get that mad over.
I
this little thing.
saw an example of it today. So Avowed, Obsidian's new game.
Yeah.
Skillup did a preview, or he got to play like a couple hours of it, whatever. And the character creation is the only part of it that is like you can't look. Like
What do
you
you mean?
can't he can't show any clips of it. You can't.
They've
okay.
stopped him. Okay.
Yeah. And I read through the comments, and people were like, "That's because of the DE&I. It's because of the woke, the pronouns," and they were already like, "Fuck this game."
They wrote it off immediately.
Yeah, and it's like you have no clue. Like,
yeah, it could definitely go in both directions. 100%.
And also, I do think that's a minority because you look at a game like Baldur's Gate, that character creation was very inclusive. You could be different genders. You can identify as different things. You can even give yourself like vitiligo. Like,
Yeah.
You know, and nobody really cared about any of that because it was a phenomenal game. So I think if you deliver a good product, it doesn't really matter how quote
embargo
unquote
was the
woke you
word I
are.
was looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we made that exact point where it's like, if giving them a character like one of those traits doesn't make themselves interesting, right?
Yeah.
But if you write a really interesting character that happens to be that, I don't think anybody bats an eye. Baldur's Gate, I think, is one of the best examples of that. The game's littered with stuff all that you look around where you can customize and make your character a certain way, whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, those characters are really deep and interesting. And
Yeah.
so that's how it gets ignored. But just as like I think it swings one way, it swings the other way. Like Kyle
Absolutely.
said, people are the moment they catch that scent of, oh, you know, like this character's gay or something, let's just say. It's not the end of the world. Like maybe there's a reason for that. Like give it, like listen to it out. Like there might be an actual narrative reason, and it actually makes a lot of sense and is really done in a delicate, nice way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
Or-
that's an end all be all.
Yeah, and I mean, to me personally, I like it when if a character's like, you know, gay or something, I like it when it's not a big part of the story. Like it's just them. And then they have their own other personal drama that I'm dealing with, you know, because there's always drama in video games. But like, you know, like Caden in Mass Effect, he's bi, right?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
go both ways.
You don't know that unless you romance him.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly fine with me. Like I don't care. I don't give. If you want to
One.
romance him, sure.
I think historically nobody really cares ever to this
Yeah.
day about that character.
We got a
right?
bigger problem called the Reapers. All right,
Yeah,
I don't give
right?
a shit what your sexual orientation is. Like, and you know, I mean, however you feel about the topic, I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to be able to, as long as you deliver a good quality product. That's all I'm really looking for. But if you can create something where anyone can identify with, you know, a character, or like, I think that is important, especially for kids. Like, I remember when Miles Morales, back before it was even a movie, was first introduced. They're like, "Oh my god, like why do they even need this character?" But like, I really think that it is important for people growing up to be
Yeah.
able to identify with something like, it's hard for like a small black kid to identify as Peter Parker. Like that's not
This
anything,
nerdy white guy.
Yeah.
nerdy white guy. And like Miles Morales, on the other hand, they're like, wow, this is like someone that I could pretend I am, and that kind of thing. So, yes, I do think it could swing really hard where I'm like, that was not necessary. Like a whole 10-minute exposition on accidentally misgendering someone
Yeah.
is like not needed.
Not necessary.
You know?
Right, but like Miles Morales is a great
Yeah.
example of this. He's not like that game isn't great because it's a black Spider-Man. It's a good game. It's
Yeah.
interesting narrative. Like that's how you like support that whole narrative and build something cool around it. It's not like, oh, we got a black Spider-Man and there's our game. It's like, no, that's not interesting and enough
That's
on its own.
that's where I'm like, when people do it for the sake of doing it, but it doesn't make sense. That's when I'm
Yeah.
like, if you're intelligent about it and you approach it in a way that makes sense, like it's perfectly fine
Yeah.
to me. But that's the
But if you're trying to
But if you
supposition
develop-
your shitty narrative,
Yeah.
or your shitty storytelling with like, well, we need something here. Let's make them black, or let's make,
Yeah.
like, no, that's not gonna fit. That's not gonna fix the problem.
I think there's a problem with people when some characters get introduced to be a token character of whatever it is they're representing and they're not written well.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
then it's abundantly obvious that they just did it for the fuck of it. And like it just doesn't add anything to it. Like they have to be written well and realistically in a way that makes sense.
Well, for me, as an outsider, sort of looking in, I didn't feel like Veilguard had super negative hate around. I feel like it was it was fun. I liked it. I felt like it was very neutral, the response.
I saw the critics
But that's me
gave it
outside
good
looking in.
reviews. Being partially inside, I saw the same stuff as Kyle. The internet does not like
Dragon Age.
Dragon Age. I mean, it's like
The internet
Cyberpunk.
like any game.
There
There's
are
low
things-
sodium,
Yeah.
and then there's the regular. If you go to low sodium, there are people that love this game, and I came to enjoy it, especially the second, third act. But I also see why people have issues with it. It's just something that I can get over a lot more easily than they can.
Yeah. Like overall, did that 10-minute cutscene that had no place in the story, did it ruin the game for you? It's a 10-minute cutscene.
And
if
guess
that,
what?
You know?
I can skip.
Yeah.
You press
It's not
you
like-
press circle and you skip right through the cutscene.
Well, see, I don't even know the scene you're referencing, but from my perspective, again, on the outside looking in, I didn't see a lot of hate around the whole, I guess, woke mindset or whatever of maybe the developers. I saw way more examples of just shitty writing. Like, hey, dude, what's up, man? Like, it's just weird.
And I
things
think that's
like that.
perfectly fine
Yeah.
to
That's weird.
as a criticism. Because I actually did agree with some of that stuff. Because I watched this video that compared like Dragon Age Origins, like the writing and the dark fantasy of it compared to now, and it's almost like the difference between watching like, Christopher Nolan's Batman versus The Incredibles. Like the tone is so
Yeah.
different that I can easily see how that would be jarring. And if you don't like a game because of that, totally fine.
Yeah, I
Nothing
mean they
wrong
do
with
that
that,
with
yeah.
they juxtapose constantly Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, with
The
Rings of
Hobbit
Power.
films.
Yeah, with the Rings
Well,
of
even
Power.
with the Hobbit films.
Yeah,
they did
well,
that.
even there too,
Yeah.
where it's like Tolkien was way more eloquent, and it's like, well, yeah, he had like his life to write this, I don't know.
So anyone can have their opinions they want about whatever they like, what they don't like, as far as video games go. But I do think that when you're needlessly trying to like warp other people's opinions, like let people make their own choice.
Yeah.
Let them decide on whether or not. You don't have to go around preaching as if you're the most important person in the world and why this game sucks. Or like,
Leave your politics out of it.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we've come to our final moment. Kyle,
The meaning of life?
Leave us with a one sentence meaning of life.
42.
And with that, Dylan, where can people find us?
They can find us right here on YouTube, where hopefully you're watching us right now. We're live every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's in the Pacific time zone in the U.S. of A.
Wow.
Is that
Yeah.
where we are?
I got to break it to you, Kyle. We are.
Oh man, I think this is like Shutter Island or something. I'm just
Does only the U.S. owns the Pacific, right?
yeah,
No
not
one else shares
Canada
that.
or
No.
No one else
Mexico
shares
or
that.
any other
Only-
Southern American.
No, only the time zone
If I've learned, the time zone that runs
across the whole world.
Sure.
It's owned by America.
Canada
Okay, got it.
definitely has that time zone, and so
Nope.
do other. No,
It's America only.
No. They
We're
rent
getting
it from
facts.
us.
They rent it.
America.
How much?
We
what's
came
that
up with
fee?
time.
What's that fee to rent the time zone?
It's large.
It's $3.95 for the first for the first 3 months, and then it goes up
If you
to
wanna be a-
$500.
If you want to be a tier 3 sub to
The Pacific
to
time
the Pacific time zone, you got to pay $25 a month.
And if you drop your subscription, you will be pushed into the correct time zone. You will
We
be
do, in
moved out
fact,
of-
own the internet, as U.S. says. We do. We have a monopoly on it. Yeah.
Yep. We own everything. But yeah, come check us out. Come join us. Chat with us. It's a lot of fun.
And remember, with a good KD, you get the 42.
Bye, guys.